Hey guys, my name is Joanna. I'm the co-founder of Soon Network, and I'm here today joined by a good friend of mine, Shiv, CEO of Boundless. And he's joining us for another episode of Professionally Curious, the most insightful 100 insightful founders in crypto. So, yeah, Shiv, I think we have a lot to cover today. Given everything that you've been working on, we know each other from our Coinbase days. I definitely want to dig into your backstory. So let's start with that. Give us a, overview of your personal, journey through crypto. How did you get started? How did you end up where you at?
Yeah, firstly, thank you for having me. So really glad I could, participate in this podcast. I'd be personally hurt if you left me out of the list of 100. So my journey in crypto has actually been quite interesting. Generally in my career, I got like very good early advice, which was work in nascent technology, work in new things, and you will be forced to learn new concepts and apply them to like previous paradigms. So you're like forced to learn what worked and what should work and create your own sort of perspective on how the world should be built around you. So I've been trying to apply that for the longest time. My career, started in database tech. I worked in cybersecurity for a while,
Mm-hmm.
mobile apps when, just before the iPhone was launched as well. I really cut my teeth at rideshare. So I worked at Lyft and Grab, Grab being a Southeast Asian rideshare company, Lyft being an American one, sort of same industry, different culture, see how that like completely changes perspective of like how technology is applied. Whilst I was at Lyft, a lot of folks from Lyft, including the senior leadership, Manish in particular, who used to be a head of engineering at Lyft, became head of engineering at Coinbase. And during COVID, of course, rideshare took like a massive slump, and I was, just sort of wondering what's next for me. And I had bought some ETH, some BTC, and I actually knew of Coinbase as a three-person startup that used to sublease from the company I used to work in. I've actually
Wait,
like Brian
seriously?
obviously, yeah. Brian has no idea of this, but I when they raised their money, their Series A or was it Y Combinator, I don't remember. They had I was hungry and going home late, and so I stole some of their pizza. Um,
That's a
and
great story.
and lo and behold, they have quite a lot of pizza now.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I hope you
so
didn't spend your BTC to buy that pizza.
no, absolutely not. Like,
How old?
uh, I mean, it was an interesting time. It was a three-person company, just like I started. But I knew something about BDC. I knew I was very interested in BFT tech, consensus tech. So this was very interesting to me. And then, when Manish left and like he moved to Coinbase, I was like, oh, that's a interesting thing that they're doing there. So I had the app, I've been using it. I was like, this is very interesting. It's very related to markets, something that I'm personally interested in. And I moved to Coinbase, and that was, of course, the interview process and all of that. And then I realized there's quite a lot of folks from Lyft, and it was a very, very hectic time. It's always hectic at Coinbase. They're the largest sort of entity, I would say, in the US in this nascent technology. So they take the
Right.
responsibilities very seriously in terms of like pushing the industry forward and so on. So very, very hectic time there. But I learned a ton. But I also realized I wasn't learning about native Web3 tech as much as I wanted because it's a live business. There's like stuff going on. So a lot of it is making sure everything stays up, incremental progress. I wasn't like, oh, let me, build my own L2 or whatever. Like base was like a little product spec that somebody had written. I was, oh, there's like, it wasn't launched yet.
Right.
So that's when some of my direct reports from Lyft had actually moved to Ava Labs, the company behind Avalanche.
Mhm.
And one of them gave me a call and said like, dude, I think they're hiring my boss. I want you to be my boss again. And of course, that's like extremely flattering when someone says something like that. I was like, okay, at the very least, I'll take the call. And I really enjoyed my conversations with the, Ava Labs team. They're very engineering driven, engineering first company, young, very young,
Yeah.
but very, very committed to their task, which is, I think, sort of how most of Web3 is, young and hungry. That was, I think, eye opening for me because for the first time, I was actually dealing with the tech off blockchain, upfront, dealing with issues, incidents, how to manage time, how to prioritize features based on feedback from people who are using L1s and so on. And then I started realizing the problems of adoption
A
and
true
scale.
startup mode now, right?
Yeah, yeah. So the
Coinbase
adoption
is
at scale.
it was like a 2.5. Yeah, still not
100%, 100%. Like you also don't have
small
a
enough. Hmm.
you don't have IPO money to back you either, right? So
That's
there's
right.
like you're in a resource starved environment, but it's great. You learn a ton again, and you also learn about the challenges of the technology, what's missing, and it started becoming very clear to me that zero knowledge systems are a antidote to a lot of the problems that exist right now. It doesn't solve everything. I don't think that's like a it's like a Twitter thing that people say, like, oh, it's the end game, it'll solve everything. Of course not. It solves, but it does solve a lot of the problems. And I started looking into it, and I realized like Risk Zero was a Seattle-based company, just like myself. And
That helps.
sort of, yeah. So it had also been close to 5 years since I'd gone into an office.
Right. There's only two crypto company in Seattle, so
Yeah,
good
Eigen
job.
and Zero, both of us are kind of neighbors, and we love hanging out and stuff. And I was like, okay, let's give Zero a call, and they were hiring. I was a good culture fit. They did need my expertise on some things, and I joined. And to be honest, the last year and 8 months, 9 months have been like amazing. We coalesced on like what the goals of a ZKVM industry look like. What does how do we actually package it, deliver it to people? What are the products we
Yeah.
build atop? Really start building intuition for what is it that people need, and go after existing customers, help like new people build, project out ideas of where the industry should go, so we can actually lead the industry. That's something I learned directly, I would say, from Coinbase, which is
Hmm.
they were like, hey, we're not here to just be a company, we are a flag bearer, so we should lead. So that's something we take quite seriously at Boundless as well. Whereas there are a lot of voices in the industry saying a lot of stuff, projecting towards a future that is yet to be built. We want to be much more constructive in like, here's where we are, here's where we want to be in 3 months, 6 months,
Yeah.
9 months, and then talk about the 5 year plan. No, really, really good journey here with them. So yeah, now I'm CEO of Boundless. Again, talks to the humility of the founders of RiskZero, who said
Hmm.
our skill set is going deeper into R&D. Your skill set is in growing an industry and a company. We want you to do that. We want to keep our eye on the ball here. And that's how we manage our cognitive dissonance, right? Like
Yeah.
most people, right now, the biggest fad is like we are building AWS. Everybody's building AWS. It's like unless you worked at Amazon, you don't realize how big of a challenge that is to go
Mm.
deep into tech and go wide into distribution and growth. If you try to do both of them at the same time and you don't have the right sort of setup, you just end up confusing your engineers and product managers and sales and BD. They don't know what to do. So like, am I marketing the next gen thing? Am I marketing the partnership thing? What am I supposed
Yeah.
to do? So we've actually figured that out by like, delineating responsibilities and using our internal trust as like a group of friends, which we are, to really scale ourselves. And the last 10 weeks, speak for themselves.
Yeah. Absolutely. I want to actually bring that up because I saw you last week, when you guys had the company-wide offsite in New York. And one thing I really wanted to ask is, what are the kind of the lessons learned there, right? You mentioned that you kind of started to really convey the company philosophy, right? And everyone's role. And you also mentioned the fact that, yeah, you wanted to make sure you rally up the troops, right, before the BTG moment. Because DK is not a new tech, but, we have to find a way to get users and folks that are not technical to care about it. Yeah, what are some of these visions that you can share with us?
Yeah, so we should like if you go back 10 to 15 years, the way Bitcoin and the way Ethereum sort of like became the chains, or and even Solana became the chains of trust, is by becoming completely community owned and community driven. Bitcoin, of course, is possibly the most decentralized and community owned system there is, right? Who
Hmm.
owns Bitcoin? That's like a hooded figure we sort of all talk about, but like nobody knows who he is. He doesn't do
Right.
anything. Most of us, a lot of us, I think, believe he's passed on.
Yep.
But it doesn't exist. There is no centralized control. It is a truly, like in the most honest way, honest term, democratic sort of movement
Mm.
where the people have ultimate control. Even though there are quite a lot of big bags and like big players and so on, people tend to trust in an institution which is leaderless but efficient. Ethereum is getting there. Vitalik is still, I think, like the central focal point of attention. at Boundless, we actually have a unique opportunity to like recreate the passions of Bitcoin. And that's something I wanted everybody at the company to understand. My role is as a professional hire. I'm not a founder of the company. I don't have 45% of all the stake and all that shit. I'm a professional hire. I was hired to do one thing: grow the ecosystem, make it successful. I know how to grow the ecosystem, working with BD, marketing, product development, we're going to do that. But that only takes so long, and after which, like the flywheel is like flying by itself. How do you actually make it really successful and maximize its potential? Is by vanishing. Like I can't be the
Essentially
central
yourself
focus.
out of the job, right?
Exactly. And I think I take that very seriously. A lot of these sort of chains that have, founder led chains that are just kind of there, the founder is the focal point. You don't know if the founder is bigger than the chain or the protocol themselves. I don't want that situation to ever come to be. I actually have a unique opportunity to tell the team that, like, hey, in 5 years, I want us to be at a point where we can say, yeah, job here is done. We would like to participate as peers, get out of the foundation, and then like really participate as peers, building companies, products, experiences on Boundless, rather than the folks just trying to grow Boundless all the time. Because once it reaches a certain point in time, I want to completely give it away to the ecosystem. Full ownership by the ecosystem will allow the ecosystem to drive it forward. And there's actually already interesting things happening on the market which make me even more gung-ho about this. The first thing is there's honest to god innovation on the platform, on the protocol, that we didn't anticipate. People are making unbelievable advances in how they want to bidding strategies, how they want to reduce prices, MEV strategies. All of this stuff is just organically happening that myself and my product managers never saw coming, which tells you one thing: the market is already getting smarter than us. So how can I drive a market when the market is already like out innovating me? So for the next few years, we're going to be able to keep up. But at some point, the power of the market will force more experimentation in so many different combinations and permutations that we won't be able to like keep track of. It's best that we get out of the way. So
Yeah,
that's already happening.
that's a nice
Yeah.
problem.
Right. And the next one is you can already see the levels of competition on driving costs down. We want to make sure that continues to happen, and there is no opportunity for anybody to put their thumb on the scale or any of that. Like, people are already trusting Boundless to the same extent because of its decentralized nature as they would an Ethereum or a Bitcoin. We already have nearly 3,000 provers. Every other protocol boasts of like anywhere between 1 to 10. No matter what they say, it's 1 to 10 provers doing all the proving. We have 2,000. Here's the weird thing: we just finished our season 1 of our mainnet beta. There is literally a kid going to college. He just finished high school, who topped the charts, who we estimate has probably made enough money to cover his college tuition just by, and we want that story to like keep progressing. There is a lot of scope for innovative work here to be the best prover. It doesn't matter if you have the most number of machines. You need to really sort of work on the system and understand the market, and you can outgame most people. Efficiency is key. And we want to drive that as well, and people are gamifying it as well. I work with a lot of my friends from like my former jobs are now provers. They have their little group where they're fighting against each other to see who can get better, which I think is like awesome fun. But ultimately, I also told them like, hey, after this is done, you guys are going to open source everything, right? They're like, yeah, I'll open source all my strategies, and more of that, right? Like, and then it becomes a beautiful ecosystem where everybody is competing on equal terms to provide useful work to everybody. A lot of folks are already seeing this, which is that proof of verifiable work is a strictly better mechanism than proof of work, and it has a lot of the same benefits of Bitcoin. So whilst I don't think like overnight we're going to like hit Bitcoin highs or like do any of that, but we are inheriting a lot of those properties. So it's incumbent upon the team to take that responsibility seriously, get it to a point where the flywheel is sort of moving by itself, and then do the honorable thing and say like, hey guys, this is great, let's have a huge party and call it a day, and then enjoy from the outside.
Yeah,
I personally want to be a prover. I just don't have time. That's my
yeah,
only issue.
yeah, yeah. I seen a lot of enthusiasm in the proving or prover community, miners community about your guys' work these days. I wanted to also bring up another point, just to help set you up as a standard, right? Other than the decentralization, like truly realizing that vision is also the neutrality, right? So one thing that truly sets you apart from, some of the other, I would say, similar peers in this category is you guys are not actually, you don't have this ambition to build a chain, right? You're stating your zk VM as a service, right?
Yeah.
So that makes you truly free of like any sort of existing biases, right? And can work with, that's why we're working together, right? I am part of the SVM Solana ecosystem, but you guys working with EVM, SVM across different tribes, and as you know, a lot of tribes in this space. So yeah, tell me a little bit more about that. Like why that is the case. Why is that the sort of the end goal for you?
Yeah, so I think like from an external observer's point of view, right? Like it's very obvious that there's mindshare, liquidity, creativity, fragmentation in our industry generally. Like tribalism, whilst competition helps, tribalism doesn't help, right? Like the ability to sort of pick and choose different technology without worrying about, you know, people sort of like lacking compatibility or like prejudgment or all of that stuff is important to like help put together the best of, for example, what you're doing. Get the best of Solana, get the best of other chains, put that all together, give the ecosystem what it wants is very, very important. That's one reason, right? Like the other one is I think being non-aligned is like a really good freeing space mentally, where we can just look at all the problems as problems and then go for solutions rather than talk about like, hey, the ticker is this or the ticker is that. I'm like, yeah, okay, but are you solving the problem the customers want? Do you have customer obsession? Do you actually worry about the business and so on? For us, being able to like service more customers is ultimately healthy for the protocol, just from a pure business point of view. The fact that I can, work on Solana, I can work on Ethereum, I can work on Sui, Aptos, doesn't really matter. Allows me to like access more clientele, access more demand for my network. By building an alternative L1, I go to competition with people who've been doing it for a while. Whilst I won't say it's a completely solved problem, plenty of progress is being made in the database or the blockchain space, and like I would love for us to be able to build atop that, and to that effect, like we actually think interop is like a massive problem space as well. Like it's a right now, like all of a sudden it's in the news because of Stargate, Layer Zero, and Wormhole going into like a. I even put out a tweet saying I don't have money, otherwise I'd also compete.
For
Yeah, why
something,
not? Like buy Google Chrome, buy this. I'll throw in Greenland as well. I'll buy
right.
Greenland.
Let the M&A game
All
begin, right?
yeah,
Right.
yeah, aspirational purchases. But interop is still like I would say like a huge problem. People, chains, and people who hold state aren't incentivized to make bridging safer, bridging better, because they're like, oh no, why would I help the other protocol? But we are in a unique position to help because we're like, oh, we just solve problems, dude. We don't really care about like what camp or whatever. People want better bridging, ZK bridges. Yeah, we'll do that, and that's what the signal was really. Full Ethereum consensus is step one of like helping build a bridge between Ethereum, and we're going to like try and focus on Solana and the other chains as well. Full, ZK bridging, and then the concept of multi-chain asset will every asset will become multi-chain. Every application will become multi-chain, and that's the world we want to live in, where people users don't care. Like
Yeah.
ultimately, if you talk to somebody who's using something, they're like, oh, I'm using this DeFi app. What's it hosted on? I think it's Solana. I think I don't know. And they shouldn't care either. Like same way you don't care if Uber runs on Azure or AWS. Is just who gives a shit? Like just make where's my car? Is the question.
Exactly.
And we have to get into a position where we're trying to answer that. One of the things I was telling some folks at a different meeting was we talk way too much about infrastructure. We need to pivot towards talking about applications. And that actually makes infrastructure more valuable as well, right? Like right now we're like, oh, Solana does this, and like Ethereum does this, and whatever the other one does something else, and here's some transaction TPS numbers. Those really are vanity metrics that no one actually cares about. People want to discuss about Uber, they want to discuss about Airbnb, they want to discuss about health app or stuff like that, and if there's more discussion about the applications and the application ecosystem grows, the infrastructure layer grows with it. The value in the infrastructure grows as well. I think there was some stat I read in 2020 or something. For every $10 raised in venture capital, AWS was pocketing something like $1.50 or something. So 15% of all venture capital raised was just going to AWS, just funneling in. That's something worth remembering.
Fascinating. Yeah, yeah.
Right? Like instead of trying to pump your bags, pump your apps, right?
Mm,
Like pump more apps. That's the actual way to kickstart the flywheel.
yeah,
Otherwise, we're all fighting for like a very small sum of money.
right. Exactly. I think that's kind of that's what we've been doing too. As soon as we kind of started it, the killer, no, building our killer app, let that be the use case that speaks for itself, right? Then that will start to kick up the flywheel effect to get more
100%.
traction.
That's the North Star. I think
Exactly.
100% that's the North Star.
Yeah. So I want to bring back to the fact that because you're remaining this neutral position, right, and providing like ZKVM as a service, so how do you productize it, right? Like how do you, for people that don't, live in GitHub repo all day, can you explain like what is Kailua? Why does it matter? We are using it.
Yeah.
I know how it works, right? We're building our first ZK fraud-proof SVM out there using your Kailua framework. But for the audience who don't know much about it, can you give us a overview?
Yeah, yeah. So most folks are probably familiar with Ethereum and its scaling policy. For the longest time, the way Ethereum wanted to scale was with rollups. Optimism, of course, like provides its own stack for making these rollups easier to implement and run and work with rollup as a service providers and all that. But there are always security issues with withdrawal windows and all of that as well, where you want to make sure that there is point of attack between the data being transferred from the L2 to the L1. Once data is actually confirmed on Ethereum, like let's say your balances or mine, it's totally safe to process withdrawals, process transactions. That's fine. You get the finality of Ethereum to back your data. But there is a period of time when the data is in the L2, is in process of being read by the L1 and being finalized. How do you actually during that interim, reduce that period of time to as short as possible, so there is reduced waiting times for people trying to take their money out or use it for different purposes? And how do you make sure that is extremely secure? OP Kailua actually answers that in a lot of ways using ZK to power all of these. To answer both of these questions, one, of course, the security aspect. Security is sort of guaranteed by the ZK VM and mathematics behind ZK, which is of course extremely obscure. I understand moon math, blah blah blah. It's very hard to just point to people and say, hey, ZK is safe, just take it. But I would advise everybody to sort of maybe anyone with a mathematical background. I will actually say very honestly, if you studied maths in college,
Yeah.
it's not that hard to understand ZK. ZK is surprisingly easy to understand, very hard to implement. It's not that hard to understand, and you can make a few, oh, I don't understand how this bit works. Maybe, let's just assume that it works and move on, and you'll be able to figure out how ZK works. Once you get it, it actually makes a ton of sense. Highly advise people to follow Dan Bonnet's course, or or Victor Shoop, or just take up any of our blogs, or worst case, just hit me up. I will set up a call for
Yeah.
folks to learn a little bit. We have a fantastic teacher in house to teach people these things as well. It protects your assets. The other one is by using ZK and setting up these dispute games, you're able to shorten these windows for withdrawal as well. And how does that work? Essentially, there are two kinds of ways of doing this. One is optimistic, the other one is full validity. In optimistic, you kind of have these dispute games where people can claim that hey, I don't think this is a valid transaction, you can challenge it and get the transaction dropped. Full validity is you constantly prove state transitions of chains, and that actually allows you to ZK secure every transaction, so there's no need for anybody to sort of drop in a dispute or so on.
Right. Right, for sure. Yeah, I think those are the big unlocks, right? From a user perspective, they probably don't get to see the trade-off we're making on the security side, optimistic economics versus the ZK fraud proof, but they will certainly see the actual, user withdrawal window shortened by a
Yeah,
long
so I
shot.
think that's
7
the
days,
real
a couple hours.
100%. The thing to actually point out is Kailua is a user-centric feature. It actually makes it easier for you to access your money. makes it easier for you to move your money around. That's very important in a financial ecosystem. The faster money moves around, more sort of currency velocity, as it were, the more the economy sort of grows, and that's very very important, especially in blockchain, where the main thing that we tell everybody is like, hey, you can move money from one place to another like
Yeah.
instant. Then we're
Capital
like, oh,
efficiencies.
and then we're like, oh, actually, it doesn't move in an instant. When you want to withdraw,
Right.
it takes a long time. They're like, well, that's odd. So we need to make that instantaneous. Validium rollups or validity rollups allow us to get there really quickly. And ZK is playing, I would say, a pivotal role in providing that security and also making that happen now. Like, it's not like a futuristic thing anymore. It's happening now.
Yeah, yeah, and I would just add that having worked with partner with your team, it feels like the whole team is very much aligned on getting this out the door, ship it out the door as soon as possible. Like every time I call Rami, your chief engineer, it's like he's in somewhere in Europe, but
He's in
every time
Egypt.
I call him, it's always Egypt. That's right, Egypt. But I'm surprised by how often he picks up in the odd hours, in his time zone. So I think, yeah, we need to let people know that like making a first ZK fraud proof SVM chain is a big deal, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's a lot of modifications that has been made on top of the existing Kailua framework that only compatible with EVM.
Yep.
And in that journey, we are publishing all this progress currently on the GitHub repo. I can post this when
Yeah.
we release this episode. But yeah, it's very much all worked out in the open and
Yeah.
co-research with your team. So
I mean, kudos to your team as well, because I think identifying the right approach and then sort of building it in a way that is applicable to your ecosystem is like the best way forward, right? What we really want to do is like take the core part of Kailua, which in itself is like an innovation, and make that applicable to different VMs and make it sort of VM agnostic and like work that way. So we're extremely happy with the work that like you and your team and soon have like put together as well. It's going to benefit everybody, and and I also I 100% align that like making it open, accessible, visible to everybody, to reuse, to give more ideas, like submit improvement proposals. I'm sure someone must be thinking, hey, can I like rip this code out and do something else? Like,
yeah,
I'm totally game for it. Go ahead, make improvements, right? Like, I keep asking Rami, do you know other Ramis? And he's like, I know other Ramis, but none of them are engineers. I'm like, oh, okay, that doesn't work.
right,
But
right. We need to scale it.
I have a thinking image in my head of like a bunch of like 20 engineers sitting in Egypt, all of them just like really good at roll ups and like engineering those for some reason.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We have to put these teams together. Um, yeah, I guess one other question I wanted to get your insight on, right? So I noticed the cultural shift since you joined ReZero. The amount of the ambition and the proactiveness, right? It's very much shown on not just social media, right? But also just every time I talk to your team. I think curious on your end, right? Like, what is the team's kind of main cultural tenets now, like in terms of what you guys wanted to accomplish if Kailua works the way that you wanted to see, right? Being adopted by every L1, L2s out there, and it's being used by even applications, right, that can benefit from this ZK technology. If in that world, how do you get there, right? How do you go from where you are now, having the best tech, to getting everybody adopted?
Yeah, I think firstly, thank you. That was a very nice thing to hear and very nice thing for you to say. I actually think it's very important for me to sort of work with folks who have the right values kind of baked in. Even when we hire, one of the things I actually look for is why are people actually here in the blockchain industry? Because there is a very, very easy trap in Web3 right now, where what you do is launch a token, pump its bags, get it done, take some
Yeah.
money, and like run out. If I even sense that in anyone, or like that's like a huge red flag for me. Like I am perennially against people who are not thinking big and thinking longer term. Because I think there are short-term wins, and I want everybody to enjoy the benefits of doing a good job and any sort of like upswing that comes with it. Like I've worked at pre-IPO companies that went IPO, a lot of hard work, but like yeah, I enjoyed the benefits. But all those companies did share this sort of like thing about like where do we want to be in 10, 15, 20 years, and how are we making that happen in the 3 months, 6 month period as well. Like I actually think if you only give everyone a 10-year vision, that's not good enough because people don't know how to get there. They'll struggle. Everybody can
Yeah, they
articulate
need
a 10-year
more
vision.
short-term, right, milestones.
Exactly. And trying to articulate that to the team, giving them full visibility has basically empowered them to feel like, oh, I'm just going to go for it. And that's what I really want from folks as well. I want to give them the space to fail, learn from failure, and then go fail faster again, right? It's totally fine. But I want to give people space to do that as long as they have decision velocity. They know they're making decisions in a direction and they're not doing it blindly. Just trying to go fast, you'll just bump into walls. But if I tell you that like, oh, I need as a business goal, I need like, X number of chains that are using Kailua or whatever, that's like an OKR. And then like I also give you the reason why do I think that is, and how do I plan to help, and why do I think Lua is can achieve this target? Give people not just like a target, just a thing to aim at, but also tell them why it's achievable. People start believing in that a lot more, and they start getting wins. One of the key things that I'm a strong believer in is momentum. You have to build momentum inside a team. Success begets more success.
Yeah.
So try to get the smaller wins in first, get the ball rolling, identify people who are good culture warriors as well inside the company. Make sure they're doing a lot of talking, encouraging people. It rubs off, especially on the engineers who are a lot more sedate and don't want to talk, but they're listening. They're not insulated completely. When they get this feeling of like, yeah, no, like this is great, what I built is being used, I want to like pump it harder, it helps.
Yeah.
I'll go in one last sort of like it's a humble brag to some extent, but like I really did do it, and I really do believe in things like this. During the offsite, I wrote everybody in the offsite a handwritten message in an envelope and gave it to them as a
Wow.
as a time capsule thingy, and I told them like, hey, I
Yeah.
want to open this in a year's time. I wrote everybody something personal. So,
They ran back to you or just one way?
I'm
That
sorry.
is
No,
great.
no, no. They didn't even know I was doing this. No,
Oh,
no.
okay.
Joe didn't know it. No one knew
Right.
it. Only my wife knew it because she was there, like at the shop. Like I had to buy like nice cards. I didn't want to do it on like A4 paper.
Of course.
And I wrote everybody like a thing, because I want them to get this sense of destiny, and understand the scope of what they're building. Um, ZK is to blockchain as blockchain is to Web 2. Blockchain completely reinvented Web 2 into Web 3. We can reinvent the blockchain space. There's so much like scope and space for us to innovate. I want everybody to feel that energy. Once people do that and they realize they're in the right place, and also I'm not like I guess I'm not like a traditional CEO. I don't like bark orders and stuff. In fact, I will say I'm probably the most bullied person in the company. HR doesn't seem to care either. They love making gifs about me and then sending it to me.
That's so
And
funny.
but I like that energy. I like the
Yeah,
fact that
yeah.
like people feel like they can vent, complain, or celebrate their successes with me, and I'm all about that. Changes the energy of the team. I really like the fact that we have a youngish team. So we have like folks who are like 25, like a lot of them,
Hmm.
and some folks who are like 35 plus,
Hmm.
not a lot. And there's no one in the middle, weirdly enough. And that gives us like this like dynamic energy of like folks who don't care about the time of the day and they just pump it for like 20 hours straight. And then there are folks who are constantly thinking about, oh, this should not take so much time the next time. How do we make the process better? How do we give folks a better mechanism to deal with something? That's the experience of Coinbase and Amazon and all
Yeah.
that stuff. And we are in that like funny phase. I actually don't know what it'll look like in like 2 3 years when some of these folks grow up and like I grow older. Like maybe we become a much more settled company. But I really like the space we are operating in right now,
Hmm.
where there's a lot of focus and everybody. I mean, yesterday I was in a meeting where Reka was like, our head of marketing was like, Shiv, that's not this meeting. Can you like, shh? Wait, oh, okay, sorry then. Um, just
That's so funny. Yeah, you have a team that can like keep each other on their toes. And
Yeah, yeah,
even though
yeah.
you're as you mentioned, right, has very different backgrounds. Interesting, interesting. Yeah, I wanted to go back to your focus, right? Because you mentioned that's something that you were able to do even when you were operating in remote in an environment, and of course after the offsite. I certainly have been seeing a lot of posts coming from the official account and your individual accounts just in the past week since we had lunch. Yeah, what is the current focus? I mean, I've seen the public sale notice, the signal, product launch, and yeah, I mean the TG itself, it's being announced with the ZKC coin, right? As we unveiled the utility of that. Yeah, what is the current focus?
Yeah, I think so. I wish there was one focus. There's like two or three, but like where we spend most of our bandwidth right now is our journey towards TG, which is like the question everyone has is give me a date. I'm like, dude, like can't do that. But I can. What I
Right.
can say is like
Soon,
weeks, not
soon.
months. Soon, yeah, that's the answer right there.
Everything is coming soon.
It is definitely coming soon, and what we're doing is working towards that, make sure everybody understands the power of our tokenomics, because unlike so we had, I would say this is a problem with math startups, because this is a math, tokenomics is a math problem. Everybody decided to jump in. Everyone's like, I'm very interested. Now there's only one person at this company who didn't jump in, and that was me, even though I'm the only person who had an economics degree. It's like I was like, okay, so why is everyone so interested? But
Telling you how to
because
run the tokenomics design. That's funny.
it's I was like, you know what? Why don't you guys go have fun? Give me the final result. I'll take a look at that, because everybody is so excited. But
Yeah.
the reason for the excitement really is the way we've designed the tokenomics. The tokenomics understands the power of ZK. The tokenomics understands the power of our protocol. It isn't like Bitcoin, which understood it was trying to solve a very specific problem, and the protocol and the token were like very much intertwined. It's the same for us. The it's called ZK coin because it actually understands the properties of ZK and is like implemented in a future-proof way. So it's about educating people on how the token works right now. We don't want people to think, oh, it's just like a market, so you pay for it in ZKC. Not really. You pay for it in like whatever token you're comfortable with. ZK coin represents every single piece of verifiable computation done in Web3 and beyond. So we want people to understand the scope of that. So educating people on that is important. We're doing a lot of community stuff right now as well,
Yeah.
including the community sale, making sure people have a chance to not just read and be distant participants, but actually already partake in ownership of the protocol and come together. We have a really strong big community. We want to make sure that they've been supporting us for so long. As we go towards CG, they're given an opportunity to like engage and share in our sort of journey as much as possible. So that's going to be like the focuses or foci, I guess, for now. But the other thing is like putting out more educational content, right? Like I think there is a clear lack of like content on how ZK works, how is the potential of ZK and so on. We tend to talk in like product abstractions of like Kailua rollups and so on. But once people actually understand what is ZK, where is it headed, and why folks like Vitalik and Justin Drake are like massive fans, why Base is betting on ZK, why are the different L1s betting on ZK, and also give them like a mental model to think about what is the Web3 economy supposed to look like,
Yeah.
and where does like Soon and Boundless sit, where does Ethereum sit, how does value move, then things become a lot more clearer. Right now we are confusing people with like, oh, here's my TPS. I'm like, what are people supposed to do with that? Like sometimes we do this as well. Like ZK is also like equally guilty. We'll say like, oh, we hit 100 megahertz. Ah, okay, good for you. What am I supposed to do with that information is
Right.
not very clear. So
Right.
there's some good content that we can create. And of course, like my favorite thing to do is to like talk to people in person. Whenever I go to conferences, one of my key things is to like build a new deck every time I go to a conference. Focus on giving perspectives and knowledge about things that they can't find from ChatGPT. Like there's no
Exactly. From your existing website. Yeah.
yeah, if you can already find it, what am I doing? Like, I'm actually wasting marketing budget, like flying there, eating free food, taking free
Great
t-shirts.
point. Yeah,
And
I do the same. Yeah.
right, like the focus should be on like, okay, you're an audience. maybe it's Token 2049, where like it's a lot more investor style, folks not too technical. Maybe it's Berlin, a lot more technical. Focus on like things that are not public, that we're working on, or we feel is something that we understood after working really hard that we want other people to like share and understand. Sort of like a TED talk, more like a TED talk, less like a corporate presentation of like shit you can already find. So yeah, that's really my focus when I go to conferences. It's like, and I'll be honest, that's how we got some of our best customers, best sort of VC connections and all of that. When everyone is smart. They're just running out of time these days, right? Like, but if you corner them in a cafe with a pen and paper and draw something out for them,
Hmm.
they kind of go, okay, that's not how I thought this worked.
Yeah,
This is
yeah, yeah,
way better.
yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people, I mean, a lot of VCs I talk to, like, haven't looked at ZK in like, 3 years or something. And they're like, oh, can you do like this? And I'm like, dude, we're doing real-time proving. And they're like, oh,
Already.
shit. And then they realize like they should have like been studying about ZK all the time. So yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, amazing. Speaking of conferences, I'm sure we'll see each other at the
Yep.
Asian, the what do you call it? I guess the conference
Circus.
circus, right?
Yeah.
The roadshow. The roadshow is the word I'm
The
looking for.
roadshow. No,
Yeah.
I call it the circus. I definitely call it the circus. Like, most people see the final product, which is like somebody on stage or somebody, the microphone. The madness of immediately traveling somewhere, just shrugging off jet lag, and then showing up on stage and making sense. Making sure you don't say
I've
something
seen you do
stupid.
it. You can do that.
I try, but like to be honest, like like I mean, this is the darker side of like our lives as well. Like we would all much prefer if this was less of a conference oriented
Yeah. Yeah.
ecosystem, versus like taking it out on our families and stuff and like traveling around and budgets moving. It costs money and so on. I actually tell people this, like if you actually like going to a conference, make sure you're at the conference. If not, like don't go. It's okay. Like
Right.
you can get most of this content online. The whole point of going to conferences is like go talk to people, identify who you want to talk to, who you would have not gotten an opportunity to talk to, build connections, and that's something I would say like kudos to my younger staff who really I think taught me how to be better at conferences. I see them operate and I'm like, Jesus, they have a list because they land and they're like, dude, I'm grabbing that guy, I'm grabbing this guy, and I'm grabbing this guy. By the end of the day, I'll send you my update. I'm like, okay, I was just going to walk around. I guess this, so it's much more intense than people realize,
Targeted.
but
Yeah.
it's how you need to operate.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I think I made a rule to only attend conferences where I'm invited to speak,
Yep.
because as a CEO, as you know, like you want to be empowering your staff too, right? To get them to send these people to like do the BD and the networking and all that stuff.
100%.
You just do what only you can do, right?
100%.
But yeah, really great to have you on the show. I really always enjoy your perspectives and insights. So yeah, definitely would love to see more of you. We'll see each other in Korea
Yep.
and Singapore coming up.
100%. And there'll be more announcements for both of our teams as well. Like as we keep working together, we're going to try and educate folks on a lot more applications of like our technologies together and what that actually brings
100%.
people. So yeah, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
See you around in the conference circus.
Exactly.